We have ourselves a very exciting session today, and I have the privilege of introducing Ryan Prouty. Ryan is the manager of the ISS Research Integration Office at NASA, and she will be leading this next conversation. As manager of the ISS Research Integration Office, Ms. Prouty is responsible for setting the overall strategy, or strategery, and direction of the office, ensuring alignment with the key goals of the ISS program and the agency. She is responsible for bringing new customers to the ISS research platform and managing the current customers' needs and expectations. In addition, she directs and controls the strategic and tactical planning and integration of research to ensure maximum utilization of the ISS. All right, that's quite a lot right there. So please join me in welcoming Ryan and her panelists to the stage.
Thank you, Patrick. I think I need to ask for a raise if my boss is in here. That sounded like a lot. I'm really glad to see everyone here for this panel. I've been pretty excited about this one. We're going to go on a little journey today, talking about how we as a community and these three as individuals plus their companies have been a part of pioneering low Earth orbit through partnership with the space station program. The dictionary defines pioneering as involving new ideas or methods. So technically, it could be a new invention, a new science, a new discovery, but it can be more than that too. It can be viewed from a holistic level. It can be making new rules or creating a new paradigm. And I think we'll get into each of those as we go through our discussion today. Reminder before I forget, you can submit questions through the app, and we should have time at the end to get to those. So with me today on this journey are the very people who have been helping drive some of our pioneering in ISS. And of course, nobody's in the order that's here. Cool. On the far end, Mike Lewis, Chief Innovation Officer at NanoRacks, one of our very earliest pioneers on ISS as we started to accept commercial activities on ISS. Yep. Still wrong order. Rick Mastracchio is here. He's Director of Business Development at Northrop Grumman, not only leading Northrop into their next pioneering adventure in low Earth orbit, but he also helped ISS pioneer its assembly of ISS on orbit. He's been there 4 times. And then Alon Bernstein, Chief Strategy Officer with Space Tango, maybe the newcomer up here, strictly speaking, by years, but definitely not by experience. They're pioneering the next generation of science discovery. Welcome, everybody.
Thanks, Ryan.
So we're just going to jump right in. I'm going to give these guys an opportunity to open, but as part of your openings, I'd like you each to have a chance to tell us a little bit about what makes you, or your companies, a pioneer.
Start with me.
Go for it.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's a pleasure and an honor to be on the stage at ISSRDC. My name's Mike. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at NanoRacks. And like Ryan said, NanoRacks was one of the first companies to sign up to use the space station. You know, back when we were in assembly mode, the space station was being put together. A lot of our leaders that are in this room had the foresight to say, hey, you know what? We should do something with this thing. And so it was declared a national laboratory, and we were the first to sign up. So since that, you know, beautiful Space Act agreement came across our desk, we've flown nearly 1,400 experiments to space station with a variety of science, research, education, applications. And really, in the theme of being pioneers, I like to think that we're always looking forward, ways that we can listen to the different science communities and build new platforms, you know, find new ways to use things that exist, and you know, really we want something really, really cool to happen. So we try really hard to enable as much research on the station as possible.
Awesome, thank you. Rick, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I'd like to start with a question for the audience. Yesterday, we watched the Cygnus NG-19 launch from the room. That was fantastic. It was good, lucky timing on our part. But yeah. Thank you. But I had so many folks come up to me and say, I've got 5 payloads on there. I've got 3 payloads. Hey, I've got hardware on. I've got cargo on there. And boy, I've been in a lot of pressure situations, but I really felt it last night with all you in the same room with all you. How many folks, raise your hand if you had if you or your company had something on the, well, that's a pretty, wow, that's a pretty good, that's impressive.
Your neighbor's here.
Pardon?
Your neighbor's here.
Yeah. So we are certainly proud to deliver that service, and I think the pioneering effort that I'd like to talk about is the Cygnus spacecraft, and I'm not going to go through the history of it because I don't know it all actually, but more than 15 years ago, NASA and industry and others got together and said, hey, let's make cargo delivery a commercial service, and of course, several ideas were born, and Cygnus came out of that. I was a small part of that way back when, a very small part of it, and I was on orbit when the first Orb-1, the first operational mission actually arrived. And it was just an incredible little vehicle at the time, just meant to deliver bags, and we had some ants on board, so it was pretty fun to see the science experiment. But since then, the Cygnus spacecraft has certainly grown as NASA realized its capabilities, and ISS had certain needs. The Cygnus vehicle continues to deliver other things like powered payload, reboost. I'm very proud of the fact that we used to reboost the space station with the space shuttle, and now, of course, the space shuttle went away, and now we utilize the Cygnus, and I call it the little engine that could, in that our little 100-pound engine could boost up the 1,000,000-pound space station in a higher orbit. It's pretty impressive. So, and of course, we're going well beyond that, and we'll take that Cygnus spacecraft into the commercial LEO market over time. So we'll talk more about that.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks to everybody for hosting us today. The last couple of days have been intense and fun, and meeting all these people here has just been really, really exciting. I'm Berenstain. I'm Chief Strategy Officer at Space Tango, and we pride ourselves on working hard with the science community to help them reach their goals, and we create some really, really nice partnerships to look forward to the future, especially as we look at commercializing and manufacturing either new or better materials in space to help us here on Earth. In terms of pioneering, I think we pioneer every day at Space Tango, and we all do as people who use ISS, but trying new things every day, setting the bar a little bit higher, and trying to do something a little bit different. I like the way that we've really integrated our science teams and our engineering teams internally to work hard, seeing engineers work in a sterile environment and build hardware in a sterile environment and actually know how to do that to protect the science that's happening on board. We do this kind of pioneering work all day, all the time. Of course, our CEO and founder, Twyman Clements, just had a lot of guts as a pioneer to set this off with our first set of employees to do things that nobody's ever done before, and we continue to do that. And I think it's not just us, it's really most people in this room who are really pioneering new things every day, new ways of thinking and new ways of doing, and working on teams like that. So that's really what I cherish the most.
Awesome. Something you just said about Twyman having guts led me to another, he has all of his guts. Pioneering takes a certain level of creativity and courage. And, when the station was first launching and we were doing assembly, we'd been to LEO, but we were doing it in a whole different way. And so I'd like to hear each of you talk a little bit about how has partnering with the ISS supported your success, and then what are you going to take from that experience, from that success, to inform your future LEO endeavors?
I'll start. Through the years, we've seen a fundamental change at NASA. I used to say, and I still kind of do, I say, companies like NanoRacks exist because it used to be a pain in the butt to work with NASA, quite honestly. And what I saw and what I've seen over the years is a paradigm shift in the mindset of the folks that we work at NASA. commercialization is more than just saying a word and going on with your business. It's enabling companies. Back in the day, we made we had this box where we put in cubes, and many of you guys are familiar with that, still do it today. And the NASA program office and later OZ was so supportive of this that they wanted us to be successful in such a way that we created an environment that was competitive to ourselves. And I like to point that out, I'll set you up. But what we found is that that environment exists today. And we have lots of science being done there. We're enabling more and more, and it truly is the rising tide raising all ships.
Awesome, thank you.
Right along?
Sure, yes. No, I mean, partnering with the ISS program, first of all, ISS, the ISS National Lab, NASA, we all play a complementary role in really meeting the needs, the priorities of the nation first, and being able to leverage each other's strengths and weaknesses. And I think that's something we do well. I always say that as implementation partners, I don't think we're competitors. I think we all bring something different to the table, and we all need to do well. NASA needs us all to do well. Researchers and people doing manufacturing work in the future needs us all to do well. So the more we work together in a complementary way, it benefits everybody. We learn all the time. What did we do in the past that we would want to do in the future or not do in the future? But really working together and not duplicating efforts is probably something I think we're always learning, but we're getting better at it. I think that's something that I would want to keep working on, making sure we're complementary to each other.
I want to pull on that a little bit because I like that what you were saying. At the beginning, each implementation partner had their own way of doing business, their own way to interface with the space station program. And actually at this conference, I'm hearing more from each of the companies that we've met with so far, talking about the partnering and the collaboration and where's the line between my individual intellectual property versus we all need to be successful in this together. So I don't know, I didn't make that a question. So maybe you could each talk about
can you use it in a
how that collaboration,
well,
how you do that.
It's the reality, right? There are different size companies being represented here. And some of us are in very small companies where we need to protect every asset that we have in order to make sure that the value is still there. And how do you balance that with just making sure that everybody is successful? And it comes back to us just trying to be as human as possible when we do what we do. And we rely on partnerships, people we've known in different hats that we've worn, and being able to trust each other when we move forward and being able to meet the goals of everybody we're trying to meet. So let's not forget to be human when we do this work, and I think that's how we're going to be successful.
I like that. Rick, I'm going to go back to you. What you brought up earlier in your intro about the success of Cygnus. I've been coming to this conference for 12 years, and it was the first launch party, so that was really cool.
Yeah.
Probably maybe not comforting for everybody in the room, but all the NASA people get really superstitious, and we probably were doing a lot of pacing last night. Every launch, we just want all of our science to get up there. But Rick, how's Northrop taking their success with Cygnus and using that looking forward to LEO?
Right. Yeah, we're looking at a lot of different options. Obviously, we'll continue to deliver cargo to the International Space Station throughout its life and provide other services as necessary. But we're talking to all the potential commercial LEO destination providers, all the commercial space station providers, including us. And we're looking at what we have to do with the Cygnus spacecraft. What do we have to do with the services that it provides? Are there services we provide the ISS that we don't need to provide commercial providers? More likely there are services we have to provide that we we don't provide for ISS and will have to provide for the commercial provider. So we're trying to prepare and think way ahead on how do we start updating our vehicle, making sure that we have a spacecraft that will be flying 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So we're obviously looking at that. And then of course, as one of the companies, Northrop Grumman, has a Space Act agreement with NASA to go off and study the Commercial Destination Free Flyer, the CDFF, the commercial space station. So we're developing concepts for that. We have preliminary design review concepts in work. And a little bit of background, I mean, our strategy on that is utilize hardware that we've already been working on. We're building the Halo habitat, we operate the Cygnus spacecraft, so we're trying to reuse as much of that hardware as possible in order to keep initial non-recurring engineering costs low. So we're continuing to study that from a technical perspective, and of course, the more difficult or bigger challenge is the business case around that, as we all know. And so we're continuing to study that and keep our options open going forward.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Rick, we also have a CDFF contract, and those guys, right. You may have seen today we announced that we actually formed a separate company called Starlab. It's a joint venture between my evil overlords. Oh wait, I didn't say that correctly. Between Voyager Space and Airbus, and we've spun off a different company to pursue this. And what you're saying is correct. We have an opportunity here. We have like I like to say, we're not just going to make another better smelling space station, and you can attest to that, right?
Everyone's talking about how bad it smells this conference. Why is that?
Oh, well, because you open the pink bags and it smells like socks and metal. It's yeah. Now we have an opportunity here, and this is the room that informs this opportunity. We really, as we move to these private space stations, we can build things to be very specific to the science that we're trying to serve. We'll see multiple space stations that are all catered to these different applications. It's a wonderful next step, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. So yeah.
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah, same to you.
Thank you. So we've done a lot of rainbows and flowers and all the wonderful work we've done with ISS. What are some of the tough lessons that you've either learned yourselves and how you function as a company, or that you've learned from us that you don't want to do in the future?
I'll start because I screwed up the most, I think. We've made a lot of mistakes along the way. We've overheated science. We had CubeSats that didn't get out of the door. Willie Viles, if you're in here, thank you for your help on fixing that. We've made a lot of mistakes that I think in the past wouldn't have been acceptable in aerospace, but it really is reflective of the attitude of NASA to make sure things were safe, not that they worked. And I think this is enabling a lot of different areas of research. As long as we can show that we're not going to harm our astronauts, that everything's on the table. And it's wonderful. Like I said, we had CubeSats get stuck. I did an experiment where I was trying to grow sugar crystals. Sounds really easy, right? You go to a truck stop anywhere in the U.S., you can buy those rock candy things. I was trying to make that. I failed at that. And it turns out we learned a lot about the process, right? We learned that the water on the space station has certain additives to it that affect crystal growth. We learned that temperature is super important when you're doing that, and we learned a lot about the water supply system in that. So, I've learned from my failures, and fortunately, the community also gets to benefit from my failures.
When I first started working after grad school, when I was at the Canadian Space Agency, and we were working our first missions on Shuttle and Mir, and working through the process of putting payloads on those platforms and working with NASA to get them launched. The paperwork, there's still paperwork, but you should have seen it back then. It was daunting, but for good reason at the time, and making sure that we don't make any mistakes. I'm now in a company where we have a lot more flexibility in what we can do, and if anything, we've We may have overcorrected in the past and just, if I don't have to follow that rule, I won't. But then you start to realize that some of those rules are actually necessary, right? So where's finding that sweet spot for each of us in terms of the lessons learned of not overcorrecting all the time and finding the right solution for you and your situation. I think it's the biggest challenge, not only technically, but from a management perspective, and how many layers of management do you need? How much oversight do you need? How much you just let people work? We all learn from that all the time. I think when you're sitting in a government seat, you have that responsibility from a taxpayer perspective to be over careful sometimes. It's just the way it needs to be. When you don't have that, you want to break free and do your own thing. But that's not necessarily the best solution either. So finding the right spot from lessons learned, from mistakes that we've made in the past, is a fun challenge to try to find right now.
Yeah, it's been interesting on my side as well. Coming from the government, right? We had all these requirements, and Mike comes in here, wants to break everything on space station. Just kidding, he didn't. But it's really interesting to watch the evolution of all of the companies, and you guys, like you just said, are going through the same thing that we did, where it took us a bit to realize that we didn't have to do as much. And how do we whittle down to, we've got to keep the crew safe, we have to keep the vehicle safe. But beyond that,
right.
Can open up a little bit.
I'll add, those lessons that we've picked up along the way are very important to Rick and to me and people building space stations. Like, where can we implement efficiencies? How can we, what is truly important? Do we need, where are the areas we need to focus on so that we can cut other areas to make it profitable? Yeah.
So going back, and I don't know all of your histories. In fact, I just learned you were at CSA. That's kind of cool. Do you think that, is this where you pictured you would be? When you very started working in the space industry, let's go back, I don't know, 20, 30 years, and you look forward, where did you think we would be?
I'll start. I didn't think I'd be on a stage where every time I talk, my face shows up. I don't know if the other speakers had this thing. There, it's right there. It's very disorienting. Bravo to all the other speakers for doing that without pointing it out.
Clearly you don't turn your video on Teams.
No, I'm a no pants guy. Yeah. No, I'll tell you what.
That was not my fault, if Joel's in here.
I'll tell you exactly where I was 20 years ago. I was in grad school at University of Colorado, and I was cleaning mouse cages for an experiment. And that experiment went on to test pharmaceuticals. It wasn't my experiment. I was just the guy who cleaned up mouse crap. But it was a very successful experiment, really great. And I did not expect to be sitting next to the guy who performed the experiment on the shuttle. Nice. So this STS-118. Thank you, Rick, for doing that. Yeah. Further to that, I didn't expect to be in a spot where we were, building multiple space stations. I'm really excited about that. I think that the opportunities we have right now, and just the, I guess, positive attention from the general population. We have some eccentric billionaires to thank for drawing attention to the industry, but really the good things that are happening in space are getting great publicity, and it's really the theme of we're doing things in space to improve life on Earth. It's out there. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I could add a little to that. 20 years ago when we were back flying space shuttles, I never would have thought that commercialization would have taken off so much in low Earth orbit. And the thing that even amazes me more is the traffic that comes and goes to the International Space Station. The number of vehicles that are arriving and departing is just, it's like a train station, so to speak. So I think that's pretty impressive, and it's for the folks who are a lot younger than me out there, it's only going to get better and busier in low Earth orbit and beyond. So it's pretty exciting times.
Yeah, you remember those times when shuttle was not there and we had quiescent ops? Yeah. I don't think we have that anymore.
Right.
I didn't think I'd be living in Florida and being able to literally walk out into my backyard and watch launches sometimes more than once a week. You know, where just, it wasn't long ago where I could count the number of launches I'd seen in person on one hand kind of thing. Now I have to like drag my kids out of the house to go to see another launch. People don't understand, the kids don't understand how lucky they are or how different things are today. And it's just amazing. I did think though, because I was involved in the early stages or the early years of ISS, where a lot of the justification for the existence of ISS was all the commercial benefits that could come out of it, the new inventions. You know, things have changed quite a bit. I don't think we've yet found that silver bullet or that product, you know, that we promised everything, but that ISS would pay off. It's paid off in so many ways, but I think the conditions are finally there to reach that, you know, and the conditions are very different today than they were before. First of all, the existence of private capital that just wasn't there for this industry back then is now available, and so that's changing everything. And the advent of the commercial space stations is just opening up new ways of thinking and new ways of doing things. So I didn't think we'd be here having these conversations when we first started thinking about how ISS could be most useful. I think it's become most useful in ways we didn't imagine.
Yeah.
And now the doors are just opening up, blasting open. It's amazing.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. Yeah.
You're talking about dragging your kids outside to watch the launches. My daughter, a couple years ago, went off to college in Connecticut, and all the kids in Florida and Houston, they hear space and they're like, yeah, whatever, you're going to work again, fine. I gave her some NASA stickers to take, and I gave her a stack. She's like, oh, Mom, I just need a couple. Give me like 10. She called me before fall break, I'm gonna need you to bring some more stickers. Everybody wanted one.
Yeah.
There's a new energy around what we get to do every day that's really, really exciting. I think, oh, nope, I do have one more. And then we'll go to audience questions, so make sure you get them in.
Yeah.
Okay, so given where you all were 20 years ago, looking forward to, did you expect to be here? How has going through that evolution as a whole community sparked or changed ideas for what you want to go do in the future?
I think I want to be a veterinarian. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's opened tons of doors, tons of opportunity. You know, it's funny you mentioned the sticker. When I started at NanoRacks, you know, we were in a garage and like, you know, stereotypical garage type thing, and my predecessor was almost like angry at NASA. You know, and I.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Oh yeah, you know, everybody knows what we're talking about. No, wonderful man. And I had a NASA sticker on my car, and he peeled it off.
Are you serious?
He said, "We're not like them. We are different." And now I am proud to say new employees, we give them NASA stickers. We are. It is. No, it's a giant step forward. But again, you know what I said. It represents the changing mindset and the changing philosophies of this entire industry. You know, when you say commercialization, what does it mean? You know, it means that we can find ways to do business in space. We want space to just be another place to do business. You know, ultimately, we want it to be a place where we're manufacturing and where we're, I don't know, doing MMA fighting and or whatever it is, you know, entertainment, but also like really valuable things, producing things that can't be produced on Earth. And no, I'm forget your question. I've gotten distracted, but I feel like that's a good place to stop.
Probably.
Just stop. Yeah, I'll take a shot. Over my life, I've seen the big NASA programs like Apollo, where it's a very NASA-centric program. They go off and buy the vehicles, they run and operate the vehicles, et cetera. Now we're seeing a shift away towards commercialization, and where the private companies build and operate these vehicles. And like extrapolating forward, I don't think either one of those is the answer for everything. So I think that's what we have to be careful about. We can't just say commercialization is the answer for every program going forward. We commercialize cislunar, commercialize the moon. Like you said, we've been looking for 40 years for that. I call it the goose that lays the golden eggs in low Earth orbit, right? We have not quite found that yet, but we're hopefully getting closer. So what I want to see is I want to see the right choice of what programs are commercialized and which programs NASA still has to be taking on the risk in controlling what's going on that program, because it's just so technically challenging and just there's no commercial market for it at that. So that's how I would like to see the future and extrapolate the future.
Yeah, I want us to continue to challenge ourselves, to have the guts that I referred to before, to try new things in new ways, but also learn from our experience, right? So in my role today, I get to work with a world-class team of people, and all I want to do is create the conditions for them to shine, right? But also learn from our mistakes, and when they have these crazy ideas of, no, like you can't do it that way, because I want to reprogram myself to think, yeah, why not? Like, it's crazy enough to try and see if it works. And so creating the conditions for people to continue to innovate, to pioneer, is really what we need to do now, is just let people try new things in a safe way, in a responsible way. That's what we all have to do. It's just make sure that we keep innovating.
Stay curious. Keep asking those questions.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. I have no idea where Kenna is, but she was going to, see if we had any questions from the audience.
Hey, we do. Thanks everyone for submitting your questions, and thanks Ryan. First, I'm gonna go to Mike, so your face is big on the screen again. What do you wish you knew at the start of doing payload operations?
Oh, goodness gracious. What do I wish I knew when we started doing payload operations? Everything. You know, you guys, I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's a challenge to put something in space. You know, you have to make it, well, survive the environment, whether you're inside or outside. You have to survive launch. You have to design things in a certain way for it. That also means you have to, use the right bolts, and you got to glue them in the right way, and all these honestly wonderfully accessible problems. What I wish I knew was, how the system was going to evolve and change with us, and how that we were going to be able to kind of embrace the safety procedures, verification procedures, and things like that. It is there. I wish 20 years ago I had that kind of hope that I knew we were going to end up here. Right now we're a partner in the space station, and we're working within that system. It's great. Wish I knew that.
Okay, our next question is for Alon, which I thought we confirmed to say Alon, then you got up there and said Elaine, so sorry. I wrote it down like 5 times. Anyway, so finding out that, or we just learned you worked with CSA previously, how can other countries other than the US benefit from the LEO economy?
Yeah, it's a real challenge now. And I don't have, Ryan is living this, and with your colleagues, is how do we move into the commercial space stations in a way where we can still benefit from the world's input, and the partnerships and the stability that comes from working with international partners all the time. And it's hard in where the US is taking these, from a policy perspective, taking this leadership to develop in a new way, and then still try to find doors and openings for the international partners to participate in a commercial arena where companies do have flags because they're based in a certain country. Mm-hmm. And it's very hard for foreign governments to transfer money to other countries. They want to foster industry in their own country. And so it's a big challenge. And one way for for that to do, which we all look at, is partnerships, commercial partnerships internationally. So that opens doors for even NASA to be able to go and make deals, because they can point to organizations in other countries that are somehow linked to the US companies. It's a tough one. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes, Ryan, I'm sorry, but what we can do is help to create those partnerships, those commercial partnerships internationally that helps everybody in the future. But man, it's going to be a real challenge.
Okay, over to Rick next, and then we'll have one general question. But Rick, I can confirm, at least on the stage, you have spent the most time in LEO. I can't confirm in Leo, I can't confirm in the room. But what drives you to continue your work in LEO on the ground? What is your why? Was there an aha moment while in low Earth orbit that you remember that ignited your passion?
That was a lot of questions in there. What was my aha moment in low Earth orbit? Is that?
That ignited your passion to continue forward in working.
Oh, okay, yeah. Wow, you're gonna make me think. You know, I never thought I would leave my last job, I'll be honest with you. But after several missions and checking all the boxes that I felt like I wanted to check, I thought it was time to do something different. And I really did think about just going away from the industry altogether, but I ended up at what was then Orbital ATK, and now Northrop Grumman. And I really did land in a fantastic position. It was a perfect fit for me, and it's a great group of folks, and we're doing some really exciting things. So my passion is to continue to do that, is to continue to expand the Northrop footprint in low Earth orbit with the Cygnus spacecraft, being a major player, a major partner in the commercial space station arena in some way as we figure all that out, and then see what we can do beyond low Earth orbit with our hardware and our spacecraft and you know, cislunar and then lunar surface and then beyond. That's kind of what I'm having fun doing right now, and I see that happening and continuing for many, many years.
Okay, and last one from the audience. What changes would you recommend for the CLD program to maximize the chances of success and minimize the risk of a gap?
Oh, loaded question.
We should have just started with that
How
one.
much time do we have left?
Yeah, okay. Alon, you can go first.
Wow. Well, there is one that I talk about a lot, is what we all need is that not that we only have the infrastructure in place in the future for CLD program, in the CLD program, to make sure we have the large vehicles there, but we need the capabilities within those vehicles to survive this transition. Again, talking, you know, from a Space Tango perspective and the implementation partner community, those capabilities right now are being used on ISS. I think they're being, if I may, underappreciated during this transition to the commercial platforms, in that this capability that exists in small companies, that's all complementary to each other, needs to also exist for NASA and other users when these commercial stations come online. And so what are we going to do to make sure that that happens? And I think we all need to think about that a little bit in terms of making sure that we all survive as a community and that our capabilities are there for all users in the future. And that's a big challenge that's happening now.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I rolled my head back in jest. The CLD program is awesome. I think it's it's wonderfully built with foresight, and I think it's exactly what we need. We've talked about this. What the CLD program needs is the ability to still service all the science and research and educators, scientists, researchers, and educators there in this room. We need to make sure that we're building things that are compatible for everybody's research, so that when you're building something, it can go to any of these places. I think that's a really critical detail. Besides that, I don't know, more launches and more money.
Yeah, and I agree with you. You know, CLD program is absolutely doing a fantastic job. They're trying to answer the hard questions. That's what's my concern, is the hard questions. And we brought up one of them already. It's how do the internationals participate? Your JV is obviously a great start because you have an international partner and that helps you a lot. But imagine if you had to have an international partner from every country. It could get messy. So we really do need NASA and the government's help on that. And none of this is a secret. We've all talked about this many, many times. The other thing is the regulatory and the liability issue. Who has the we were just talking today, if a commercial space station asks us to deliver cargo to their spacecraft and it's a third party's payload and that third party payload somehow damages a NASA payload, who's liable? Is it the cargo carrier, the space station provider, who is it? So we have a lot of little details like that we need to figure out. And we'll get there eventually, but my biggest concern is we have to get there in a reasonable amount of time, so we cannot have a gap in low Earth orbit.
Yep, good. Are you guys willing to do my lightning round?
Absolutely.
All right.
Depends what you ask.
Depends, okay.
Yes.
Well then, Mike, I'm gonna make you go first.
Good.
And there's 5 questions, quick as you can answer.
Okay.
Okay,
Any 5 questions? Oh, you're asking.
my questions, not your questions.
Yes, I'm ready.
1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, right? Okay.
Got it.
Have you been to the Pike Place Market yet?
Yes.
No.
No.
Thinking back to early childhood days, who was your favorite pioneer?
Oh, Jebediah Springfield. No, I went to Harrison Smith Elementary School, Apollo 17 astronaut, and the first scientist of the Apollo landings, he's a geologist. He had a big impression on my life. Yeah, I realize that's not a lightning
quick
answer.
answer.
Yeah, lightning.
I gotta give him the due respect.
Yeah, I have to agree. The Apollo astronauts, specifically John Young, who eventually I got to work with.
Pee Wee Herman.
Outstanding.
Rest in peace.
Halibut or salmon?
Sorry?
Halibut or salmon? You're in the Northeast, you have to eat
It
fish.
depends. Halibut in Alaska, salmon everywhere else.
Oh, steak.
That's a good answer.
Halibut in a skillet, salmon sous vide. You gotta try salmon sous vide. It's just
That's
amazing.
very Canadian.
We'll need to talk about that later. If you were the world's first pioneer, where would you go?
Not to the Titanic. Too soon? Yeah. Come on.
Again, it's not my fault.
I don't know, like I'm the pioneer. I'm gonna go explore white sandy beaches or a beautiful mountaintop somewhere. I think then. Yeah, that's my answer.
I mean, I would have loved to get the chance to go to the surface of the moon, obviously,
Yeah.
in between these programs.
USS Enterprise.
Great
Nice.
answer.
All right. What do you most ardently wish to see in a Leo future?
Oh man. You wanna go first?
What was the question?
What do I want to see in a Leo future?
How did I write it? What do you most ardently wish to see in a Leo future?
Ardently.
What do you want to see most?
What do I want to see most? I want to see everybody in this room be successful. I want to see every bit of science be enabled and something just magical to come out of that changes everybody's life. Yeah. What do you think? Yeah. We got the people here to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great answer, but I mean, low-cost access, I was going to say, but his answer is way better.
When, instead of going to Universal Studios with my husband and my kids, I want to go to Leo with all of them.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Pioneers are proactive and innovative. They're the ones who come up with the big idea and aren't afraid to take charge. And I'll end with a quote from Albert Einstein. The person who follows the crowd will usually go no further than the crowd. The person who walks alone is likely to find themselves in places no one has ever seen before. So thank you guys very much. That was fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.